everyone, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In this lecture series for environment and ecology, we are going to cover all important international conventions relevant to our prelims and mains examination. So in this first session, we are going to cover the Ramsar Convention. We all know that Ramsar Convention is very important for prelims and mains examination. There has been questions related to wise use of Ramsar sites related to your GS1 geography part, GS3 paper environment part also. And in prelims examination, several Ramsar sites also they have asked, and related to Ramsar Convention also they have asked Montreux record related question. Let's try to see first of all what this convention is all about. Ramsar Convention is related to, we can say that, conservation of wetlands. Okay, so we all know about wetlands. When we learn about the basics of wetlands, we can say that simply wetlands are what? They are the ecotones. I am going to talk about the ecotones and all these things in this session in detail. But first of all, we will try to understand this Ramsar Convention is to conserve the wetlands, which are ecotones, marshy lands. They are basically the transition areas between the terrestrial ecosystem and aquatic ecosystem. So simply we can say that they are called as wetlands. Now, to conserve this, let's say, highly productive ecological systems, this Ramsar Convention has been basically signed. It was opened to signature on 2nd February 1971 in Ramsar city. The Ramsar Convention was basically opened. So, Ramsar city is located in Iran, and this 2nd February, that's why it is also celebrated as World Wetland Day. It is also celebrated as World Wetlands Day. So remember this 2nd February, it can be important for your prelims examination. Till the date, we have around 172 parties who have signed, including we can say that India is a member. India has also signed and ratified it. And total, if you talk about the number of Ramsar sites, India has become now the third largest in terms of number. Now at present, we have 100 Ramsar sites in India. And if you talk about the maximum, first is we can say that UK around 175, and then Mexico around we can say that 143. And then third largest is we can say that India, 100 Ramsar sites. Few additional information regarding this, we can say that yes, Ramsar sites are, we can say that, criteria. First of all, we can say that there are, in terms of criteria, there are total 9 criteria. If one of them we can say that fits in, then we can say that it is recognized as wetland of international importance. Wetland of international importance, that is called as the Ramsar site. Now, when the country is signing this convention, then we can say that at least one, let's say, site must be declared as Ramsar site, or we can say wetland of international importance. Then the criteria is this one. There are natural, let's say, wetlands as well as man-made wetlands under the definition of wetlands of international importance according to, we can say that, Ramsar Convention. So these are the basics, we can say that. Then we can remember the Montreux record. What is Montreux record? Yes, Montreux record is part of this Ramsar sites. It is maintained like that. And basically there was question in prelims examination talking about the Ramsar site is included in the Montreux record. If that is included, that means that Ramsar site, its ecological character has been or is or may in near future may compromised because of human, let's say, interface, human actions like environmental pollution is there, over exploitation, or we can say that different activities of the human. So for example, in India, the Chilika Lake in Odisha, it was included in Montreux record, and thereafter basically the government, the sovereign government has to supposed to take certain actions for the restoration of its ecological character again, and this, let's say, Odisha lake has been, Chilika Lake has been removed from the Montreux record. This is the way this Ramsar Convention works actually. Now, some basics about it, let's try to understand what are these wetlands. So, wetlands are basically ecotones. Let's understand it. Let's say basics. Ecotones are, we can say that, transition areas. They are the transition areas. Right, and this particular wetland is, we can say that, transition between, we can say, terrestrial ecosystem and aquatic ecosystem. Now you can see that around different, let's say, kind of, for example, you can talk about, let's say, coastal swamps or estuaries, or we can say that simply mangroves, or whenever they, let's say, oxbow lakes, right, oxbow lakes. So many times you will come across this in even, let's say, newspapers also, that oxbow lakes, like let's say Kabartal wetland in Bihar. So that is, we can say that was asked in prelims also. Basically all these wetlands are very important in terms of, let's say, significance. Let's talk about significance, because they ask question in mains examination also, what is the importance or significance of wetlands. So let's try to understand from GS3 paper environment ecology perspective. Importance, we can say that, categorize it as, we can say that, ecosystem services first of all, right? Very important. Ecosystem services, what kind of ecosystem services are provided? Like for example, it acts as a very important carbon sink. Okay, it is, we can say that high ecological productivity is there, so it acts as an important carbon sink and carbon sequestration happens here. Second important aspect is related to, let's say, ecosystem services about flood buffer. Okay, it is a natural, we can say that, buffer for the flood water. So it is, what it is doing, it is basically absorbing all the excess water during the flood time period, and it is releasing that later on slowly during the dry period. Now this is very good thing, and because of, let's say, encroachment on these wetlands, the many problems are happening. We will discuss that now. Okay, but ecosystem services, other services like purification, let's say, of water is there, groundwater recharge is there. For climate change, we can say that it is acting as a carbon sink. So all these are, we can say that, ecosystem services are there, along with, we can say, biodiversity. Okay, second we can talk about is related to biological resources, economic, we can say that, services, biological resources. Okay, so biological resources, for example, food, fodder, we can say that, fertilizers, or we can say that simply all the biological resources are there, be it, for example, fish, okay, or shrimps, or it is also called, used for paddy cultivation, brought under paddy cultivation many times. So all this, we can say that biological resources are there. Very high ecological productivity is also there. Biodiversity, you can talk, biodiversity, right, one of the highest productivity. They are also, we can say, ecotones, so that's why high biodiversity. For example, we can say that water birds, okay, waterfowls we call them, all the migratory birds that come, mostly they are basically visiting the wetlands in India, right? So because of high productivity, they are visiting there, they have food there, and that's why we can say that they are very important in terms of biodiversity. So this is, we can say that, when we write importance, write like subheadings like this. Then we can talk about is what threats they are facing. Yes, the common major threat, we can say that, they are facing is of encroachment, right? So encroachment is problem. If you talk about the rural areas, mostly it is, we can say that, reclaimed as for agriculture purpose, reclaimed for agriculture purpose, mostly we can say that for paddy cultivation, right, rice cultivation. Then in urban areas, mostly we can, what is happening here, urban areas, encroachment for infrastructure like roads, construction, buildings, we can say that, for housing, right, for housing purpose also there is encroachment. So we can say that, like for example in Chennai, what is happening? So Chennai, you can give example, encroachment for infrastructure. So it is, we can say that, 2015 floods, one of the major reason, it was not able to control those floods, the city flooded because of this only encroachment of over, we can say that, wetlands. Second important, we can say, threat they are facing is, we can say, pollutants, pollution. Okay, so industrial effluents, they are directly entering into, we can say that, these wetlands. Then we can say that urban sewage, again untreated, it is entering into these wetlands. Ultimately it is resulting into what? Eutrophication of wetlands. So it will, let's say, destroy, it will become a kind of dead zone there, and because of that it is, we can say, major concern. Third, we can say that over exploitation. So over exploitation is again human activity, right, for fishing purpose. Sundarbans, you can talk about this, fishing, shrimp cultivation, or we can say that for paddy cultivation also. So, or we can say that they are reclaimed continuously. Over exploitation is also problematic. Then we can talk about is threat to biodiversity in terms of invasive species, right, invasive species, that is also, we can say, affecting the wetlands, its biodiversity. So it will result into decline in biodiversity. So in this manner we should be talking about, let's say, significance of wetlands threat, or we can say in general threats that they are facing. Then we can talk about is the steps taken. Most important one is the earlier one we talked about, Ramsar sites. or Ramsar Convention. So it is very important convention, and all countries who are signatory, they are supposed to, you know, take care of, or let's say ensure the conservation of, we can say that, all these sites. Now when we talk about Ramsar sites, the most important thing that we can add here is wise use of Ramsar site. What do you mean by wise use of Ramsar site? Okay, so wise use of Ramsar site means maintaining the ecological character, maintain the ecological character of those wetlands in the context of, sustainable development. Okay, so sustainable development concept is applied here. This was asked in mains examination. What do you understand by wise use of wetlands? Okay, in terms of Ramsar Convention, and mention any two Ramsar sites in India. So that you can mention, right? So 100 Ramsar sites are there, at least two you can remember from your own state also you can mention any of the two. So simply wise use means here the focus should be on sustainable development, and that means sustainable use should be there. Yes, it is not talking about completely prohibition of use, rather use is there. Sustainable use means we should be, you know, harnessing it not in exploitative manner. There should be regeneration, and its ecological character should be maintained, and that's why the overall we can say that wetland and its productivity should not be harmed. This is, we can say that, wise use of wetland in general too, you can talk about that. Second important aspect is Wetland International. This is one of the important NGO, Wetland International, non-governmental organization, very important, we can say that it is NGO, right, non-governmental organization. So it also helps in, we can say that, the Asian birds, water bird sensors and all these things. So NGO, you can understand, non-governmental organization, it has very wide network, and we can say that different, let's say, governments, and we can say that they are working in different countries also. This is at international level. Now if you talk about the at national level, what kind of, let's say, steps have been taken. So at national level we have wetlands rules. At national level what we have? Wetland rules. First of all, wetland conservation and management rules are there, right? Rules year 2017. So of course it will provide certain kinds of, let's say, regulations, especially it provides for decentralized regulation, and we can say that conservation, management and conservation, decentralized manner. Okay, especially at state level, wetland authorities have been created. State wetland authorities have been created. States have been given power for management. Then second important aspect related to wetland is national plan for aquatic ecosystems. Okay, aquatic ecosystems. So here basically the lakes and wetlands. Earlier national plan for wetlands conservation, national plan for lake conservation was there. So here let's say it is combined now, and combined for lakes and wetlands both. In this manner we should understand this. So of course it provides for certain, let's say, detailed guidelines related to how, let's say, lakes and wetlands should be conserved. The basic difference between lakes and wetland is about the water depth. For wetlands it should not be more than 6 meters, but for lakes it can be much deeper also, right? So we should understand that they are the shallow water bodies wherein the, let's say, sunlight is reaching up to the ground, and that's why there is high level of productivity, and you can see the plant growth with the naked eye. But in lake you will not see the plant growth, and that's why the biodiversity is not there as much in, we can say that, lakes as compared to we can say that wetlands. So national level. Then third important aspect related to wetlands is, we can say that, yes, so related to one lake conservations, or we can talk about is, okay, yes, dharovar, right? So basically here we can say that restoration of wetlands, wetlands should be there, right? So here what is happening, we are doing is with the help of community participation, we are trying to, let's say, restore the wetlands. In this manner we should talk about, let's say, steps being taken. For India, you should understand that conservation of wetlands is important. Why? Because we are facing lot of problems related especially floods. floods. The second thing is a decline in groundwater table, right? So this is, then we can talk about is climate action commitments are there, So we need some, let's say carbon sink, we are conserving it means we need carbon sink. So we have commitment related to creating one large carbon sink also, right? So we have to ensure wetland conservation, that is, let's say, resulting into carbon sink. So this aspect is there. Then we can say that the livelihood protection is also involved, right? Farmers, fishermen, livelihood protection is there. So wetlands provide that timber, fodder, or we can say that for fisheries, food purpose. So in this manner, flood protection, flood buffer, then groundwater table, climate change action, livelihood protection. In this manner, we should understand that it is very important for India to conserve these wetlands. Also for biodiversity protection, we have obligations, UNCBD, right? Biodiversity conservation. So in this manner, 5 points are directly, related to why do we need to conserve wetlands, importance for specifically India. Okay, so in this manner we are going to cover all the remaining conventions also related to sites is there, or we can say Paris Agreement, Kyoto Protocol, UNFCCC के अंडर जो भी हमने cover let's say important let's say conventions है हम सारे cover करेंगे. Important let's say landmarks in biodiversity conservation, environment pollution related also are there, biodiversity conservation and climate change related conventions. Okay, so let us stop in this, and you can like and subscribe of course for Legacy IAS Academy. We are covering basically all the other subjects also simultaneously, and there will be different kinds of series of lectures you will see, and you can watch earlier sessions also regularly. There is a playlist created for all these lectures. At the same time, I would like to announce that there are 4 optional subjects that we are starting from the next month onwards. These subjects are psychology, sociology, PSR and anthropology at Legacy IAS Academy. So to know more details about this particular let's say subjects, you can contact Legacy IAS Academy. Thank you so much.